Welcome to Down the Road with me, Joel. It's good to have you along again. I got a couple of things going on today, but the one I don't want to say I was looking forward to the most, but it certainly was one I thought about a lot because he's a good friend. I served with him in the North Dakota legislature. He was the one I counted on in the very beginning for a lot of information, and quite frankly, he and I were a little devious, to say the least, when it came to both parties and cutting deals. I think that we had a real reputation of being able to work across the aisle, and that's my good friend, former North Dakota State Senator Steve Tomac. Steve, good to have you on Down the Road.
Hey, it's good to be here, Joel.
How you been? You been behaving or not?
You know, at this age, you can't hardly misbehave, can you?
How many cattle are you running now?
You know, enough.
That's like sacrilegious, isn't it, to ask somebody how many head they have? I mean,
well, it's kind of like, how's your 401k doing, Joel?
I get that. I checked out, I had somebody drive by and check out the ear tags, and they quit counting at 1,152. So let's just put it there.
Yeah, but I started with 1,100.
You told me once on the ranch that you looked at the investment you made in the grove and the beautiful trees there, that wasn't an investment for you. It was an investment for the next generation. So I haven't been out there for a while shooting birds. How's it look? How's the whole ranch looking?
You know, actually, since you've been here, we probably planted another, 2 miles, 3 miles of trees, and replaced some Russian olives that had their lifespan, and pulled them out and replaced them with some junipers and some pines, and things are looking really good. I haven't seen any porcupines lately, Joel. Just saying, if you want to bring your dog out, maybe he'd feel safer now.
It was over 80 quills they had to pull out of my dog's snout. And remember, Steve, that was nobody's fault but mine. I mean, the dog was working the belt really well, and then he got to the end and he was barking, and then he come out and he looked at me, and I knew that there was a rooster in there, so I sent him back in, and then he came out and barked again. I sent him back in, and all I heard was and I think the dog was very upset at me, Steve. I really believe that.
Yeah, well, I agree with you on one thing. It was your fault. I mean, you sent him back in, and he was obedient. So, yep. And there's a few roosters out here. I'm surprised because I thought they were pretty well all gone, but there's still a few roosters I see around. I think they kind of come out because most of the people, it's been warm, and most of the pheasant hunters have kind of given up. Now, maybe after deer season now, they'll come back.
So, did the boys get them all, or there's still some deer left you got to look out for when you drive in the dark there?
There's still a few around. I guess I think there's plenty around. So
okay, well, that's good to hear, Steve. One of the reasons that we asked you on today is because we've had these conversations together before. Just a little background, folks. Steve is one of 18 children. 18 children. Mom and Dad were Catholic. Safe to say, Steve?
It's safe to say, yes, we were Catholic. It was second pew Catholics, yep.
Exactly. Well, second and third pew.
Well, the only reason we were in the second pew was because it was the only place there was a full pew where we could all sit. So I'm pretty sure that's why we were set up front. But, it's in this day and age, it's pretty hard to tap anybody on the back of the head if they're misbehaving. But it was easier to do in the first and second pews.
I can about imagine. I can see Pa Tomac reaching around and the fear that would have struck in anybody's eyes. Believe me, Ray Heitkamp could do that. Dad would take us and grab you and then separate you from somebody else. And then, so the people behind you would know that you were the one he was ticked at. And then then Holly would still find a way to pinch you. I mean, I'm just saying. And you went through that same thing.
Yeah, and then you got set between maybe two of your sisters that would make you behave, I suppose, if he grabbed you by the nape of the neck and put you over and down.
The difference between you and I was that you were number 2, I was number 7 out of 7. So number 2 out of 18, you were the one causing trouble. or you the one that they had to
Whoa,
kind of
whoa,
listen
whoa,
to?
whoa, 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 whoa. No, no, it's the youngest one that always got spoiled, and because they learned how to discipline on the older ones, and then the older ones were expected to discipline the next younger. So you babies of the family are, let's not go there, Joel.
Let's get to some of the mechanics. Okay, being one of 18, how big was the house? How big was the house that you grew up in?
Actually, the first couple of years that up until the age I was till 59, which was when I was, let me see, do the math on that, 6 years old. We lived in a small 2-bedroom house without running water, south of Morristown, South Dakota, and on my grandfather's homestead. And so up to that point, when there were 6 kids, we lived in a 2-room house. There was a kitchen and kind of a living room, makeshift bedroom. And I take that back. Maybe it was almost 3 rooms because there was kind of a wall or a curtain between mom and dad's bed and where the kids slept. And there was actually an upstairs, but I don't even remember sleeping upstairs because that was kind of really tough to get to. And then in 1959, we moved north of Watauga, South Dakota, which would be probably the ranch. And I'm not sure whether you've been there or not, Joel, but there was actually 3 bedrooms. There was 1 bedroom for the boys and 1 bedroom for the girls and 1 bedroom for mom and dad until about 1960, mid-60s or 70s, when we changed the coal furnace over to a propane furnace, and we could make 2 bedrooms downstairs in the old coal room. And then there was a big fight about whether that would be a boys' room or girls' room, and there were 3 or 4 bunk beds in there. And so it was my oldest brother. Once he got married for 6 months, and so we were talking one day, and I was saying, Jack, well, how is it, married? I mean, now you grew up the oldest of 18 kids. He says, Steve, I grew up the oldest of 18 kids. Never knew what it was like to sleep alone until after I got married.
Okay. I don't know where to go with that other than to agree.
But it's interesting, Joel. We talk about big families, and the ranch I bought, the place you've been to, you weren't here. Well, maybe you were here before I built the addition on, but the original house I bought here, they raised, Ralph and Irene Miller raised 18 kids in this house also. And they were a little more spread out. I mean, there weren't 22 years between the oldest and the youngest. They were a little more spread out. But they had this house, when I moved here in 1983, was 660 square feet. And then half of the basement was for the coal room and the cook stove. And then the other half was in bedrooms downstairs. But they didn't have running water in here in 1983 when they moved out and I moved in. And it was a pretty amazing thing to see, and it took me back to a lot of my childhood. But it's interesting.
So just so folks know, the home and the ranch that Steve lives on now, the home is actually exquisite. The addition you put on, and I was there before the addition went on, but it added into it perfectly. But 1983, they still didn't have running water there?
Isn't that amazing? And when I think about that, it's and you think about that, when we moved in 59, we didn't have running water either until 59, the late 59, when we moved to the new ranch north of Watauga. And we didn't have phone. And actually, my Uncle Joe and Aunt Elner, who continued to live at the homestead, didn't get running water for several years after that, and didn't get phone probably until the late 70s either. That just was that remote. It's kind of the South Dakota, that's right across the North Dakota-South Dakota border, South Dakota outback out there. But yeah, it was interesting. They didn't have running water. When Irene moved to town, Ralph was a stubborn old German. I mean, he was, well, yeah, that's the way it is. Yes, well, okay, that's what we'll do, yeah. And Irene, just a saint. I mean, and Irene, Ralph has passed, sadly, but Irene is still a go-getter. I mean, she's 96 years old now, I think. and just an amazing woman. But when she moved to town in 1983, the spring of '83, she was just in heaven. She had running water. She had a flush toilet. They did have phone, and it's interesting. Unfortunately, we buried one of their children. Went to the funeral about a year and a half ago, and at the funeral, they, how the family gets up during the wake and kind of talks about some stories, and it was really a funny story about David, who was sadly the one that passed, died of cancer, unfortunately. But so one of the kids had gotten hurt in the village of St. Anthony. I'm southwest of St. Anthony, about 4 or 5 miles. Well, one of the kids that got hurt at school that day, and they couldn't get a hold of Ralph and Irene. And finally, about 9 or 10 o'clock that night, they were able to raise him on the telephone. They got him on the phone. Ralph, and this was I think a Friday night. And so Ralph and Irene headed out. It was late in the year, so it was plenty dark. And on the way out of the ranch here, the driveway I have, it goes up to the county road. Well, along the county road where 4 of the girls had dates that night, and they were all parked alongside of the road on various parts. And so Ralph and Irene had to drive through this a bunch of cars where all their daughters were parked. As they took I think it was David, took him to the hospital and got him stitched up or whatever it was, and then on the way back. And so they were really devout Catholics, and so on the way back, the cars weren't there anymore. But early the next morning, the story goes that Ralph got those girls up and took them all into the St. Anthony Catholic Church and made them go to confession.
I don't doubt it one bit. When we come back, the different houses that your folks took their family to, I'm curious how many of those had running water and when they had running water, and and what it's like in the pecking order of 18 kids. When you turned 18 in my parents, you're one of 7 born in 9 years. When you turned 18, you were gone. I want to see what happened with the Tomacs right after this.
You bet.
Howdy, folks. It's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Boston breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a combo roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Beck Communications is honored to be recently recognized with 3 Broadband Now awards. Beck Communications Cooperative was awarded in the categories of Top Internet Speeds Nationwide, Top 3 Fastest Internet Providers in North Dakota, and North Dakota's #1 Fastest Fiber Provider. It's only through the support of our members and customers that Beck Fiber delivers award-winning speeds and service. Thank you, Beck Communications Cooperative members and customers, for your years of continued support.
Introducing Accord Comfort Sleep Systems, a better way to sleep. We offer you 5 different models to give you the perfect choice of support and body comfort. Every model begins with our exclusive Accord Comfort Reflex Layer. This ensures proper spinal alignment and a deep down body relief. Our 8-inch Whisper Breeze provides a medium firm feel, and our 10-inch Gentle Night model has a quilted top, giving you a medium plush comfort. both use Outlast fabric on the top of your mattress, ensuring that your body temperature is not too hot and not too cold. Our Copper Rest Sleep Series is our premier mattress, offering your choice of firm, plush, and luxury plush. Every model uses copper-infused gel latex and provides all the health benefits of copper. Accord Comfort mattresses are handcrafted in the USA and come with a 60-night sleep guarantee. You're going to love sleeping with us. Order today exclusively at AccordSleep.com or Tom's Home Furnishings in beautiful downtown Harvey.
Is your business phone system outdated and expensive to maintain? Most large VoIP companies leave you on hold or struggling through online support and training for your employees. With Beck Connect, you always have fast, friendly, local support. Familiar faces with the know-how to keep you connected. Take advantage of the newest technology in voice calling, video conferencing, and virtual meeting rooms. Beck Connect gives you all the features you need with no upfront investment and no obsolete hardware or software ever again. Simplify your communications. Choose local. Choose Beck Connect.
Welcome back to Down the Road. I've been struggling this whole time with my buddy Steve Tomac. You saw some of those photos. Steve and I and a buddy named Dan Wogsland, we were part of the Blue Dog Caucus, which was that middle of the road. The Democrats didn't like us and the Republicans didn't want us. And so we were those ones in between that weren't liberal and weren't totally conservative. And so that's how I got to know Steve the most. Steve's one of 18 kids, as we talked about earlier in the show. Steve, I got to ask you, you said those 18 kids spanned how many years?
It was 22 years between the oldest and the youngest. There are 9 boys and 9 girls. I'm the second oldest. There's one set of twins, and 2 baseball teams. And you know, let's keep this into perspective. When I was a senior in high school, it isn't like all 18 were home at one time. When I was a senior in high school, there were only 15 there. So
only 15. How many? 9 girls. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. 9 girls. How many bathrooms?
One bathroom. Well, you know, up until 1959, there was still only one bathroom, but it was outside. But after 59, there was one bathroom inside, and somehow or another we got through that. But when I was a senior in high school, there were 15 home. The twins weren't born yet. And but can you imagine in this day and age, Joel, when you sit down to a meal, and the family meal was supper, and you had 15 plus mom and dad plus whatever stragglers kind of drove in, or whoever brought somebody home to visit for the evening from school, you know. So meal of 17, that's like a Thanksgiving meal for a lot of medium to large size families in this day and age. But that was every day. I asked my mom once. My mom is doing really great, but I asked her, Mom, well, how many loaves of bread a week did you bake? And I happened to know that it was well over 20, but she said, you know, I don't remember that. I said, well, when did you bake? Did you bake on Saturday? Because I didn't remember that. She said, well, I baked whenever we ran out.
My mom baked on Saturday, and it wasn't 20 loaves, even though it was a lot. That smell, you know, if she baked when she ran out, the smell of that house must have been great all the time.
Oh, man, you know, there is nothing better. And when we get into Thanksgiving here, it's like, to me, bread is still a really fundamental staple part of any Thanksgiving meal. If you don't have fresh biscuits or fresh bread, I mean, to me, that just accents anything else that you've got.
Okay, so 9 girls, 9 boys. I got to ask, 1 bathroom. It doesn't matter if you got indoor plumbing or not. If you're the boy, you're going outside a lot, I would guess.
You know, there probably was a lot of that, and of course during the winter a lot less of that too. But I do remember, Joel, because you probably in your household don't, but I do remember what a luxury it was to have an indoor toilet, especially during the wintertime. I mean, you didn't mess around very much outside. I mean, it was like, get your stuff done and get back in the house. And before that, and then after that, it was kind of kind of a place where you could read and find a little sanctuary for a moment or two until somebody pounded on the dang door. And the interesting thing about the bathroom at the Tomac household is it didn't have a lock on it.
Oh.
It did not have a lock on it, and so 1 or 2 taps and a couple minutes apart, and you better be moving on.
Who got to pick what was on TV?
You know, we didn't have TV until probably the early 60s. There wasn't much discussion because back then there probably was only 1 or 2 channels. KFYR reached there, and I think KXMB. I do remember one of the TV things that I do remember was the blizzard of, I think it was the blizzard of '66. And I just remember Batman was on, Batman, and for some reason, I think it was '66, and Batman was on, and pretty soon the blizzard was so bad that they couldn't get, they didn't have the video, they didn't have the technology because everything had to get mailed in or mailed out or whatever, the videos. And so I remember after about the 2nd or 3rd day of the blizzard, we were watching the same episode of Batman for about the 10th or 11th time. I mean, because KFYR didn't have anything else on to put, and they couldn't get out, and so yeah.
You could say the words. You could say the words to the episode. All right. So a day like tomorrow, Thanksgiving, I'm sure, well, I know this for a fact, and having talked to you and just sheer common sense, that everybody had a job to do. There's a lot of chores to do in the Tomac family if you're going to keep a family like that fed. But Mom Tomac, on Thanksgiving, how many turkeys?
I think there was usually probably 2. It depends because Thanksgiving was up to a point when we became our own family, which probably I'm not sure if I have a good recollection of that. But Thanksgiving was one of those days when you kind of tried to go see the uncles and the aunts, too, or they came to your house. And so there were probably a couple turkeys, maybe a turkey or 2, but certainly ham. So there was 2 meats. Very, very seldom any beef, just because it was a treat. Sour cream raisin pie, gotta have that. Mashed potatoes, and what else? Jello. Certainly some Jello.
So in the 30 seconds we have left, how many trips did Mom ever make to the grocery store?
The grocery store was really 25 miles away. And so that planning I never got into. I do know that at the family that we bought, these gallon-size cans of cream corn or whole kernel corn or beans. We as a family bought a lot of those over the years simply because that was the only thing. And it wasn't just at Thanksgiving.
To ask you whether or not you had a garden would just be stupid. So, Steve, I could do this all day. What a beautiful family. And here's the other part, ladies and gentlemen. They stayed close. And that's what I like the most about the Tomacs. They stayed close. Very similar to my family. All 7 of us are not just brother and sisters, but we're still friends.
Did you get to sit at the big kids table or the big table, or did you have a big table, little table?
I sat at the breadboard until Dennis went off to college. So I had my back to the whole family, and they would make jokes because I was in the high chair, but you couldn't fit the tray in front anymore. So you pulled out the breadboard. I'll bet you I was there until I was, 5, maybe 6. Yeah, so they picked on me a lot. The youngest is never the spoiled one, Stephen, and you know that. You know that's true. So.
Well, I do remember there was a adults table and then there was a kids table, and the prize was when you got, and there was enough room, or you got to somebody's place that had a big enough table where you could sit at the adults table, because then you were graduated. But
that and when they let you play cards.
That's right. That's right. When you got to play cards.
When you got to play cards. Steve, thank you. Thank you so much. It was just fun to have this conversation. When we come back, Ross Nilsson's going to join us of Nilsson Brand Law Firm. Kelby Kravinoff got Can. the head of Sanford. It wasn't, they're saying resign. He got canned. We'll talk to Ross Nielsen about what it takes to make sure there's a separation there right after this.
I just went in for a regular mammogram and I found out that I had a little tumor.
Through the exam and the biopsy, it was determined that I had cancer.
I got a call from one of my doctors that I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
After 5 years, they found a local reoccurrence.
The first thing you hear when you're told you have a cancer, it's a little daunting because you don't know where to go with it.
Since 1999, in a partnership between CHI St. Alexius Health and Sanford Health Bismarck, the Bismarck Cancer Center has provided the most advanced radiation therapies and holistic support services for cancer patients and their loved ones for 20 years.
I've been at the Bismarck Cancer Center since it started. I actually was in the basement of Med Center 1 before, when we had old machines and old equipment. And thankfully, the two hospitals at the time, St. Alexis and Med Center 1, joined forces to create the Bismarck Cancer Center.
I walk in the door, I get nothing but hugs, and I was marveled at them. I mean, I thought it was the best place in the world.
The staff is unbelievably compassionate, and they explain everything to you.
Everybody's genuinely concerned about your well-being, and the level of care is just top-notch. The Cancer Center just does such an amazing job of helping people.
To me and my family, the Cancer Center means life. It's given me the ability to live out my life with my family, my wife, my children, my grandchildren.
Because of them, I'm 2 years out, get to move on with my life, make a difference now for other people.
I would recommend this center because the minute you walk through that door, they've got your back.
This center means so much to me and to the people that are in this building, and we just want to keep giving it back to the community and providing for them what they need.
I'm Katie. I've been cancer-free for 2 years.
I'm Steve, and I've been cancer-free for 4 years.
I've been cancer-free for 10 years.
10 years.
11 years.
15 years.
My name is Lainey, and I've been cancer-free for 18 years.
Bismarck Cancer Center, your partner against cancer for 20 years.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Welcome back to Down the Road. Big news, and actually national news. Kelby Kravinoff was the CEO of Sanford Health. Now, within the viewing area that we have here on Beck TV, everybody knows what Sanford is, and they know what a big footprint. And of course, that all started out of South Dakota, and that's where Kelby was working. But he came from Northwood, and he went to school at Concordia. So there's that connection here as well. He understands the area that we live. Now, Sanford employees are running on empty. I mean, they are running on empty. They're about as tired as you can get. Working double shifts, many of them, doing whatever they can to help out. And everybody thinks COVID is causing a lot of it. I get that, but it isn't just COVID, because you've got everything else to deal with at the same time that you've got COVID. And so Kelby Kravinoff is just like me. He's had COVID, and he knows what it's like to have it. But he sent an email, and I'm still scratching my head over this. He sent an email out to all Sanford employees to justify why he wouldn't wear a mask. And he did that based on the fact that he had COVID. And the employees pushed back. They really pushed back because, you know what? They're adhering to and following the rules. And you knew he was in trouble for doing it. I didn't know that he'd get fired, but he got fired. They used kinder and gentler terms than fired, but He's no longer CEO of Sanford. So the question comes up, how do you get that closure? How do you take someone that is that high profile and has that big of a contract and say, you know what, you're no longer going to be here? I asked Ross Nilsson of the Nilsson Brand Law Firm, one of the really great law firms out of Fargo, to join me and to talk about that. Ross, good to have you on Down the Road.
Thank you for having me.
So let's put you in the shoes of Sanford first. If you were the attorney for Sanford and you had to part ways with Kelby Krabenhoff, how would you do it?
Well, I think the first thing they'd have to do is look at any written agreement that they have with him. Look through that, look through what clauses there are for them to be able to basically move him out. If they're looking at terminating him, they have to look at what the termination clauses are. If it's for cause, there's going to probably be to find out what cause is. If it's just an at-will, you can terminate him. My guess would be is if you terminate him, that there's going to be some severance arrangements that are made in that contract. The first, question I ask anybody who's going to come to me and say we want to get rid of somebody is ask the reasons why. And when you can, obviously the email was not a good decision. He got big time pushback, as you've mentioned, and there's a merger pending. I think that is one of the biggest factors that isn't talked about right now, is that the merger is pending. I believe it's Intermountain, and they're based out of Salt Lake. My understanding is if this merger goes through, they're going to be based out of Salt Lake. So my guess would be is that the Sanford people got a very angry phone call, emails, whatever it is, saying, what in the world is going on? Are you trying to blow this whole thing up? So that would be probably the answer you get. And you'd have to look at what is our liability here? If we decide to terminate him, what are we going to have to pay him? How is this going to look in the public? If we terminate him, he can go out and say whatever he wants. And obviously Sanford's had some issues with Denny Sanford and some of the allegations and investigations that are ongoing. So there's a lot of things that you'd have to consider just out of simple, beyond the simple dollars and cents of it.
So you're saying that he knows where the bodies are buried, so we got to pay him to keep quiet. That's what you're saying.
Well, that's one way to put it. I mean, I don't know if he knows where the bodies are buried, but I know that if I was looking towards, we need to get rid of him. My understanding is he was going to be out in about 18 months anyways. Okay, how do we get him out the door? How do we best save face? And also, there's got to be some kind of non-disparagement clause. We don't want someone who knows a whole lot about Sanford, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, and going out there and disparaging us. And he's going to want the same thing. And that's why you get this statement out there that we mutually agreed to part ways. I read his statement. It's very, I've been grateful to be at Sanford, and it sounds like he's been an integral part there for the past 20 to 25 years in building it up.
So, when you look at, there's a lot of people that are viewing right now that are going to say, well, I never would have got treated that way. There would have been no big severance clause. There would have been no big, hey, I'll pay you to keep quiet kind of a thing. They would have just showed me the door. They would have said, you know what? You don't work here anymore. By the way, give us your key fob. How is that fair? I mean, can they use Kelby Krabenhoff as an example of saying, look, you treated me unfair. I want recourse. I'm going to take you to court. I mean, do they have any standing?
Well, the problem that they're going to have is, especially if you're based in North Dakota, is that we're an at-will state. Some people call it right to work, at-will, but at-will basically means that an employer at any point can terminate you as long as it's not for an illegal reason. And the most common illegal reason is that they're terminating you because you're part of a protected classification, typically, disability, age, a variety of other classifications. So that enables an employer to terminate you. I know when I am speaking with an employer and they're thinking about letting somebody go, there has to be a concern on, okay, we're letting this person go. What have you told them in the past? And typically that's through performance reviews. And if someone is getting, on a scale of 1 to 5, if they're getting 3s and 4s the whole time, that makes it more difficult to terminate somebody when all of a sudden you say they've been a terrible employee for a year. Now, is it fair? No, not for the little guy. If the little guy went out on social media and said masks don't work, or, I'm not going to wear a mask when I'm in Sanford and got terminated, he's being held to this accountable, but he's not getting what be termed the golden parachute. Part of the reason that is because Mr. Kravenhoff likely had a contract with Sanford that spelled all this out. Could an employee try to go out and get a contract with their employer? They could try. The chances of the employer agreeing to that are essentially zero. One thing that everybody should take a look at is when you receive that employee handbook, which usually, are 50, 60, sometimes 100 pages long, it's going to state in there throughout there several times that even though we're providing you this employee handbook, it does not create a contract. And in the case that you're trying to claim it's a contract, it's not a contract. The flip side, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that the flip side to it is, and I've explained to some employees who have called me who are frustrated I got terminated, they say, well, it's not fair. Like there should be some reason for terminating me. Well, I always think the flip side to it is when for employers it is that at any point you could have someone quit on you and you could have someone give you 2 weeks notice. And the ability to basically have employees freely choose and employers to freely choose who they're going to work for is to the benefit on both sides to a degree. However, the employers have a lot more power than someone who is living paycheck to paycheck and can't just willy-nilly quit their job. But the likelihood of a smaller employee, whether it be on a lower level, being able to get any kind of contract with an employer is highly unlikely.
So Ross, I'm going to put you in the room with Krabenhoff now. He's hired you. He's sitting down and he's saying, look, go get me the best severance package you can possibly get me. What are you going to do?
Well, the first thing I'm going to ask him for, let me see your contract. And I think that contract likely changed when they started discussing the merger. I think that there was going to be definitely some benefits for him for being part of the merger, because some of the reports I've seen is that he was supposed to continue on in a senior level even after the merger, not CEO, but there was some special title that they created for him, which I'm sure was created just to kind of usher him out the door on a good basis. So I want to see what his contract is. I'm going to go to Sanford and I'm going to say, listen, we expect you to abide by this contract. And if you are going to try to show them the door early, we're not going to be held, you're not going to be able to cut off the benefits that we are going to be entitled to at the end of this. And if you think that we are going to agree to a contract where you're going to be able to freely say bad things about my client, there's no way that's going to happen. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a negotiation and we're going to go back and forth on it. The speed with which this happened to a degree is kind of surprising. One thing I thought was really surprising is that they released it on a Tuesday. If I was advising Sanford, I'd say let's bury it on Wednesday or Friday of this week when no one's paying attention, because there's just been a lot of kickback about it. But I think that he's going to be leaving with a very nice severance package and benefits package, and he's not going to be disparaged.
I think, Ross, they were getting so much pushback from their employees, they didn't have any choice. Think about how tired and how overworked they are, and then to be told, that he doesn't have to when they absolutely have to. That doesn't wash. So thank you. Keep your continued success at the law firm. There's your free plug, and I hope Nielsen Brand keeps hitting the ball out of the park. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
The Wittenberg family came from Winemere, North Dakota. There was I know about this family. Trust me. This is a family that has been supporting the turkey industry for years. Wally Wittenberg was a dear, dear friend of mine, and one of the ultimate high school football supporters out there. Trust me. But raising turkeys and sticking up for the turkey industry was amazing. So it's not surprising that his son Carl was at the White House with Donald Trump representing the National Turkey Association when Donald Trump pardoned turkeys just a couple of years ago. So let's visit with him. Carl Wittenberg when we come back here on Down the Road.
He once won a spelling bee in an ancient language that he did not speak. He is the only man to ever earn extra credit on an IQ exam. His academic degrees are considered legitimate spending currency in 22 nations, 2 principalities, and at Chick-fil-A restaurants in the United States and Western Canada.
I do not always engage with education programming, but when I do, it is the Dr. Duke Show.
Stay educated with the Dr. Duke Show, weekdays at 4 p.m. on Beck News.
Introducing Accord Comfort Sleep Systems, a better way to sleep. We offer you 5 different models to give you the perfect choice of support and body comfort. Every model begins with our exclusive Accord Comfort Reflex Layer. This ensures proper spinal alignment and a deep down body relief. Our 8-inch Whisper Breeze provides a medium firm feel, and our 10-inch Gentle Night model has a quilted top, giving you a medium plush comfort. Both use Outlast fabric on the top of your mattress, ensuring that your body temperature is not too hot and not too cold. Our Copper Rest Sleep Series is our premier mattress, offering your choice of firm, plush, and luxury plush. Every model uses copper-infused gel latex and provides all the health benefits of copper. Accord Comfort mattresses are handcrafted in the USA and come with a 60-night sleep guarantee. You're going to love sleeping with us. Order today exclusively at accordsleep.com or Tom's Home Furnishings in beautiful downtown Harvey.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My name is Rich Shook, and I lost my best friend in a grain bin accident.
Some of the emotional scars that when these incidences happen just resonates throughout the community like dropping a rock in a pond. I guess I'll never forget. At least the last moments we shared. That's why I think this is so important to get out there to people, is people think that it can't happen to you, and it can. The time it would take you to just kiss a loved one and your life is over. I believe it's unacceptable.
This message provided by North Dakota Farmers Union.
Carl Wittenberg, ladies and gentlemen, is the owner of Protein Alliance. He raises turkeys. That's what he does. His dad was Wally Wittenberg, and unfortunately, Wally Wittenberg's not here with us anymore. His mom is Nancy. Two of the best people you can possibly meet. Grew up in Wyndmere, North Dakota, like I said, and just a family that was into the community and did everything they could for the community for years. Everybody knew the footprint of Wally Wittenberg. In fact, it went way beyond Wyndmere. Most people knew him from his support of high school athletics and, of course, high school football, but most of them knew him because of his support of the turkey industry. Turkey Legs was one of the nicknames that he had. His son, Carl, huge success in the industry, huge success. Carl represented the National Turkey Federation. He was chairman. What does that mean? Well, for Carl, it meant that you're going to take a couple turkeys down to Washington, D.C., and you're going to meet a man during his tenure as chairman. You're going to meet a man named Donald Trump. And he did. And there was a ceremony to pardon turkeys, just like there was yesterday. It's just it wasn't Carl's turn. It was his turn back in 2017. So, here's the thing about that. I mean, how exciting would that be to grow up in Wyndmere, North Dakota? I mean, grow up in Wyndmere, North Dakota, and be on the lawn in the White House supporting the industry you grew up with. I mean, just think of how exciting that would be and how proud that would be for, you'd got to wish that your dad would be sitting right next to you. I mean, you'd have to love that. So, I don't know. I've never been one that supported turkey pardoning. I mean, I've never been one that supported that. To me, the turkeys look too good to pardon. But obviously, presidents pardon turkeys. There's a long tradition of that. And so to load two of them up from Minnesota to head all the way down to Washington, D.C., you got to wonder whether or not there's a little bet on the side over which one the president's going to use or his staff is going to pick to be the one that does get pardoned. You got to kind of scratch your head and say, all right, that's the one. That's the one right there. And so I just love the fact that somebody I watched grow up and play quarterback for the Wyndmere Warriors is somebody that we get a chance to visit with today. So let's bring him in. Carl, good to have you on Down the Road.
Good to be here, Joel.
I'm going to let you introduce the gentleman sitting with you.
So this is my long-term business partner, Jeff Stocknecker. So Jeff and I have been in the turkey business for 22 years through Protein Alliance. Jeff grew up on a turkey farm in Greenbush, Minnesota.
Now,
by the Canadian border.
Jeff, I'm looking at that shirt, and it looks to me like you attended NDSU the way it looks to me.
Go Bison.
I wanted to make sure you got a chance to do that. And that's from a guy that went to the University of North Dakota. Now, how good is that, huh? Protein Alliance. Talk to me about your company, you guys. Go ahead and pick. I don't care which one talks, but I want people to know about it.
Yeah, Jeff and I started Protein Alliance back in 1999. So we both grew up on turkey farms. Myself in southeast North Dakota, Wyndmere, Jeff in northern Minnesota, Greenbush. And we were approached by our fathers and our peer group to sell turkeys for the company Northern Pride, based in Thief River Falls, Minnesota. So we were both off doing our corporate gigs. I was working for a European company selling turkey genetics. Jeff was at Jenny-O Turkey Store in Loomer, Minnesota, selling turkeys for Jenny-O. So Jeff and I created this virgin company back in 1999. And what we do is we buy, sell, and trade protein meat products with our core protein being turkey. And one of our exclusive companies is Northern Pride, which is a farmer-owned cooperative based in Thief River Falls, Minnesota, that we sell all the turkeys for the 19 farmers that make up that co-op.
Now, Jeff, like any industry, sometimes turkeys are worth a lot of money, sometimes they aren't. How do you ride that out?
Well, it's, it starts with the grower, and we have independent growers, and they all do a very good job of managing their inputs and getting that product to the market at the best cost they can. From a market standpoint, that fluctuates. It fluctuates from year to year like any commodity, and we work with good customers that are loyal and come back and want our product from year to year, and try to not so much have to play the market on a daily basis, but yet sell with good pricing that works for both us as Northern Pride as well as the final customer going into the retail store.
Carl, I know that your family's got a long history of promoting people eating turkeys and making turkey part of their regular diet. How is that going? Is it still, is it going as well? Is America still eating a lot of turkey?
Yeah, we really are as a society. Turkey consumption is relatively flat with some upticks. The portfolio is traded a little bit, meaning less whole body turkeys, a lot more ground turkey. So ground turkeys probably our #1 product SKU within our industry. Consumers it's part of their staple diet day in and day out. So ground turkey's doing well. Turkey deli breast meat for sandwiches continues to do well. More in the marketplace at the retail level and the food service level. Lots of different variety cuts for consumers to purchase. So yeah, the turkey is not as traditional with the whole body as much as it was 15, 30 years ago, but consumption is doing well. Thank you.
Well, there's never a time it's not in our fridge. My wife loves turkey, and like you mentioned, she buys it sliced. She buys it for sandwiches and those type of things. There's always a whole turkey in the freezer too for holidays. I guess is kind of when we do that. Carl, I got to ask you. You load up a couple turkeys as chairman of the organization, the national organization. You head on down to the White House. The next thing you know, you're shaking the hand of the President of the United States because it's pardoned turkey time. What was that like?
It was surreal. It really was. as chairman of the National Turkey Federation, that's the one perk you get, is doing the pardon event with the White House staff. So the biggest message I think I gave to my friends and family and the community is how friendly the White House is as a staff. I think the media might drown out some of the good things that the White House staff does, but Jeff was a guest in the crowd and he can speak as well. It's just how genuinely friendly everybody was. So what they said many times, the White House is your house.
So Jeff, it was suit and tie day. Now you took two, is that right, Jeff? I know I've only got a minute here, but do you gamble on which one he's going to pardon, or how does this work?
Well, this is a true story. So the White House names them in a contest. It was wingtip and drumstick, and the security took off the drumstick, and we came out of the White House after showing off wingtip, and drumstick was the winner. He was supposed to be the one on the podium. So the Secret Service, we huddled up on the Rose Garden lawn and said, wingtip is now drumstick. So right there, the president pardoned the wrong turkey.
You guys, you took some time out for us today. I thank you. It's got to be a busy time of year for you. Jeff, Carl, thank you. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Happy Thanksgiving, Joel.
You bet. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Go Bison, right?
Go Bison.
There you go. That comes from a UND guy. How in the world do you beat that? When we come back, a couple thoughts. The spirit of Thanksgiving. What does that mean to you? I know what it means to me. Let's find out what it means to you. There's a reason it's called thanks, ladies and gentlemen. More with you coming down the road.
Bismarck Central, 4800.
4800, go ahead.
Requesting social services on-call team.
Stand by. 4800 social services requesting additional information.
You can advise social services that we have an 18-month-old female who was in a residence with a mother, now being transported to medical care for overdose.
Trusting your digital life to faceless tech giants can be risky. Will they keep your family and business information truly safe from prying eyes? If you subscribe to local Beck Lightband Internet service, you already have Beck Cloud Backup. Beck Cloud Backup is the safest, most private cloud storage for all your family memories, schoolwork, and business documents. Call 701-475-2361 to start using your free space on Beck Cloud Backup today.
You just might find the home of your dreams this weekend by watching the Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes Sundays at 6 p.m. and Wednesdays at 7 on Beck, featuring properties from Bismarck, Mandan, Minot, and surrounding areas. The Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes presents desirable properties that are for sale, lets you meet your Alliance realtors, and provides critical insights into local happenings from community and business leaders. Join us this Sunday evening at 6 or Wednesday at 7 for the Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes on Beck.
Today's households have more digital devices than ever before. More links to family, business, education, and entertainment. Beck Communications spent over 10 years building North Dakota's fastest fiber optic internet service. Beck Lightband Internet, outpacing speeds in large cities nationwide. Lightband Internet handles all your digital needs without throttling your connection to the world. Beck Communications, valuable digital connections in rural North Dakota.
Howdy folks, it's a Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
So what does Thanksgiving mean to you? It's not going to be the same this year for many of you. I realize that. Certainly not going to be the same for me. It wasn't uncommon for me to be in a crowd of 25, 30 family members. I come from a big family. When I was growing up, Thanksgiving meant Grandpa and Grandma Berg to me. They always hosted Thanksgiving. My family, the Heitkamps, hosted Christmas, and Thanksgiving was hosted by Grandpa and Grandma Berg, which meant Morton, North Dakota. They lived north of Morton on a farm, and we grew out of there with all the kids that their kids had, meaning myself, the other grandkids. They grew out of it. And so we ended up going to the Veterans Club in Morton, North Dakota, that they would rent. So it was big enough. And that was a metal building, if I remember right, and loud as get out when we all started hooting and hollering as kids and couldn't kind of quiet down as the parents told us to. But the food, the tradition of the food. And of course, everybody was in charge of bringing something. Grandma Berg didn't have to cook everything, right? Somebody cooked the turkey, and somebody cooked the ham, and somebody cooked the dressing. Actually, I think the dressing went with whoever cooked the turkey. But you had the yams, you had everything, the mashed potatoes, everything that went with it. That's been a tradition in your family, hasn't it? I mean, wherever you have gone in Thanksgiving, you're not probably going to go there this year. And so I think what we have to do is we have to be thankful for the fact that many of the people we want to be around are here. Obviously, we know that COVID affects the elderly more than it affects anyone else. So think about them. Think about those individuals, like my mother-in-law, for example, that can't be around her family this Thanksgiving. And be thankful, in my opinion, what I'm going to be thankful for the most is that she's here. And that when everything settles down with this, that when everybody's getting that shot in the arm and everybody reaches that point where we no longer have to quarantine and those type of things, we're going to be back together and be able to enjoy things like Thanksgiving. That's what I'm going to be thankful for, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm going to be love. That's what I'm going to love. So until then, good riding with you, folks.